Today on Free Field Training, we're looking at the Olight Warrior X3. It is the successor to the Olight Warrior X and to the Olight Warrior X Pro. This is a 2,500 lumen light, and it is marketed as everything. As usual with companies, they want to market this as a police duty light and a weapon light and a self-defense tool and all sorts of other stuff. Olight sent this light to me a couple of weeks ago asking me to talk about it because they have a sale, some sort of flash sale going on with it, and I said sure, but just like we did with the Olight Fryer, link up there and in the description down below, we're going to be honest about its use as a police duty light and whether it makes sense for that application. So I'm going to get to the positives and negatives of the light. There's a link to the sale down below. There's also going to be Amazon affiliate links to this light and other flashlights by other manufacturers that I think are also good choices as police duty lights. Let's start with the positives. There is a really high performance for this light. 2,500 lumens. It gets an awful lot of throw. You can see it here. Here's our normal 3-tree test for police duty lights. The first tree is at about 15 yards. The second one's at about 20 yards. The further one back, depending on whether you're looking at the trunk or the furthest edges of the tree, is somewhere between 27 and 30 yards. You can compare this back and forth with other recent videos I've done, again, up there, for other police duty lights from other manufacturers. Now we take it across the street, it's got really good throw. These trees in the backyard of the house across the street, that's about 80 to 90 yards is what you're looking at there. So that's pretty good performance for a handheld light of this size. It's got a little under a 40 millimeter bezel, which is pretty impressive throw given that size, especially when compared to other options that are out there for police duty lights. Now it's time to start talking about some of the downsides. Downside one, you only get that for 2.5 minutes, then the light heats up too much even in these low temperatures. As you can see, it's snowing out there during the time that I was taking that video of the beam shots. It's really cold out right now. I'm using this on the street when it's really cold out, and I'm still only getting about 3 minutes of that top-end performance before the light starts crapping out. So you can't expect to use that performance in a searchlight application where you're going to be out looking for somebody for a large period of time. Let's say you're doing a field search, something like that. You're not going to get that 2,500 lumens. You're going to get something more like this. This is the light on high mode. You can see it still performs fairly well as a police duty light. In fact, it's comparable to what we've seen from many other brands for police duty lights, but you're getting around 1,000 lumens. That's what they're quoting. You can see how well it throws, the corona around it, and how much spill you have after that. It's still very usable, but it's not that high-end performance that people look at on the numbers and that you see on beam shots for most fluff pieces about these lights. Now on normal high mode, you get about 129 minutes of runtime, which is a little less than some of the other options out there from major manufacturers. Also, it comes with this little ring that, of course, is designed to make it appeal to the self-defense market, and it's also set up to take a pressure switch that you can mount to the back to use it as a weapon light. We're going to talk about those really quick. The ring here, when I first got it, there was actually a piece of crud between the tail cap and the ring, and I had a hard time tightening this down enough in order to make the ring work. Eventually, I found the piece of crud, got it out there, kept it tight, and I used it for a little while with the ring on it, and it still, every once in a while, would start to loosen up from use and being carried around and banged around, and if it loosens too much, the flashlight stops working. You really have to, if you're keeping one of these rings on here, you have to keep this tightened down. You have to be on making sure it stays tight in order to make the light work. Because if you don't have continuity between the tail cap switch and the body, because the ring is in the middle, even though the ring's metal, you're not going to get continuity through, and the light is not going to operate properly. So my recommendation with this, if you're using it as a police duty light, is of course, just like I say about most of the other little features that most lights have with this, is to use some sort of universal pouch. My recommendation for universal pouches, having used them for several years now, doing flashlight reviews for police duty lights on the channel, is to use something similar to, or to use the High Speed Gear extended magazine pouch. That allows me to use everything from a Streamlight Stry-On to a Surefire Lawman R1, and they all fit in there pretty well as long as there aren't little dangles and doodads attached to this. This light has a pretty smooth surface, which means it slides really easy in and out of that pouch, and I haven't had any retention issues with it just sliding out on its own. It is a little smoother than the old version of this light, the Warrior X Pro. You can see there's a little more machining going on the heatsink, but the heatsink doesn't seem to be a lot more efficient than this original design. It seems to be mostly just aesthetics. One advantage to Olight's charging system is that it is magnet mount, which makes it really easy. And you only need a USB, so you can plug this into the computer on your car in a pinch. If you're not worried about fast charging it, you plug this right into the terminal or computer on your car and pop the magnetic tail cap switch on and it will start charging it. It takes a long time to charge it if you're just using your MDT or your terminal or the laptop in your car to charge it. It's a lot better to plug this into a fast charger on an outlet in your dashboard, but in a pinch you can do it. If you're stuck in the hospital and you want to charge your light, you can plug this in, pop it on the back, charge the light for a little while in the hospital, and because this is really bright and lights up, it's a lot easier to not lose it and not forget your light back where it's at. The downside to this is, with this model, you're not using an 18650 battery, and there is no micro USB charge point on the battery that comes with it. It's a 21700. I'm not saying, because people have said that I was wrong before when I said this is a proprietary battery. I'm not saying it's proprietary like only Olight makes this, but realistically, a charger for this is not just going to be hanging out in the station unless you've got a bunch of guys who are really into using these particular lights. So if you're going to use this as a police duty light, you're going to want more than one of these chargers. You're going to want to make sure you hang on to this charger, maybe keep it in your lunch bag like I do, so you always have one in order to be able to charge the light, because there aren't other options. It's not dual fuel. You can't just throw CR123s into this like you can with other lights to keep it running. So if you're stuck on a barricade or you're doing a field search or something and you're using this light, when the battery's dead, the battery's dead. You're not really going to be able to charge it unless you have one of these and a card it'll be able to charge it from. And you're also unlikely to find an extra charger around unless a bunch of other people are also using these, the way you would with, say, Streamlight, where you go into most police stations and ask for a Streamlight charger and they're going to be laying all over the desks in the detective division and in your watch commander's office or down in the locker room. Another problem that these lights have with extra features is they have these little glass breaker balls on the end of the bezel there. Try to get a good shot for you. Realistically, these might work on older cars, but modern automotive glass, that's going to be pretty useless for modern automotive glass now, is laminated, and so breaking it is exceptionally hard. So having this as a feature on the light doesn't make a lot of sense from a police duty light standpoint. The other issue that I take with Olight, we haven't talked a lot about before, is all of their Warrior series lights that they market as police duty lights actually have a glow-in-the-dark ring on the inside of the light. So if you use the light and then end up in a dark environment, which you're going to be in if you're using the light, if you want to go stealth for whatever reason, the light recharges the glow-in-the-dark bezel on here, and then that bezel actually glows green in the dark, probably alerting people of where you're at if the light's pointed anywhere in their direction. Now, this is a problem kind of for a handheld light, something to be aware of, but for the weapon light application, it's definitely something you need to be aware of. I don't have time or inclination to mount an Olight to a rifle or shotgun to see how well it will work and how well the tail cap switch will work. I've got other options for that, and I'll put some of the Amazon affiliate links for those options down below, things I can recommend if you're looking for a weapon light for a rifle. Here's one for a shotgun up there that I can recommend to you. This, however, with the glow-in-the-dark ring around the bezel, is a definite no-go for a shotgun or a rifle for a police duty application. Because if you have the light on, let's say you just check the light, or this light's been sitting in a lit car, let's say you've got it mounted in the rifle rack and you've got the overhead dome light shining on it for a time, this charges up the ring in here, and now you've got a glow-in-the-dark ring on the end of your rifle or shotgun. That's not a really good idea. I don't recommend it. You'd have to take this apart, take that ring out, and replace it with a black ring or a clear silicone or something in order to make this viable as a weapon light on a police, security, or whatever shotgun or rifle. And that's assuming that it'll take the recoil and assuming that the mount for the end will stay on it under recoil, which I can't vouch for. So if I was going to use this as a police duty light, I would do a few things. If you really want to have that extra turbo option that you don't get from the mainstream competitors, from Surefire, from Streamlight, from all of those, if that's important to you, this is a good use of a light in order to punch through tinted automotive glass in order to get that extra performance for those short periods of time, 2 to 3 minutes max for that turbo mode. I would take all of the extra little doohickeys off of this thing. I would buy it in a color that makes it a little easier to find if you drop it on the ground than shiny camouflage, which doesn't make any sense at all, I think, for a color. I think this is mostly for the flashlight enthusiast crowd who's likely to be down in the comments section getting all pissed off about the things that I'm saying about it, even though they don't have law enforcement experience to know what I'm talking about with it being from a law enforcement perspective. I would get it maybe in black in order to be more uniform, or I would get it in a bright color so that if I drop it on the ground, even just under some bushes or in a yard, it's going to be a lot easier to find. I would forget about the glass breaker bezel things entirely and never even try to use it for that application. And I would use it in some sort of universal pouch. My current recommendation for universal pouches for flashlights is the High Speed Gear extended mag pouch. That takes everything from a Surefire Lawman to a Streamlight Stringer to a Streamlight Strion to a Surefire G2 or G2X pretty easily, as long as they don't have doodads and baubles on the end of the light. You just slide it in there and you have adjustable retention on it, which allows you to use that variety of flashlights. And for any one flashlight, it's really good for the application. Most of the pouches that come with these things, regardless of what brand it's from, are something very similar to what comes with this one. This is the pouch that comes with it. It has a magnet mount on the front. It's a pretty high thread count ballistic nylon type of thing with a grommet in the top and a hole in the bottom that is non-grommeted and allows you to put the light in and use it face down so that you can have this on your belt and turn the light on and be lighting the ground under you, and also so that the light doesn't heat up the pouch and melt it sitting in there. The back of this pouch has a snap opening with Velcro and also a loop underneath so you can slide it into a belt. If this is all you have, I'm sure it'll work for a while, but I don't have high hopes on using this application for duty use every day. Also in the box is a little ring that you can use in the place of your flippy around ring in order to use the light with the syringe method. I don't find that that's particularly useful on Olight's UI that they use in order to decide what light amount you want. I would prefer to not have this on there at all, and also it doesn't make a lot of sense with most light pouches to keep these on. You really want a bezel down polymer holder that holds it just by the bezel so that you can pull it out by this clip from the pouch if you're going to use something like this. It's nice to have it as an option, but I don't think I would exercise that option for a police duty light in the absence of a dedicated polymer bezel down holder for it. So that's the Olight Warrior X3. If you have experience with this, especially experience using it as a weapon light, please put them down in the comment section down below. If you have experience with the overheat protection being an issue on this light, I would love to hear about that as well. Check out that video about the fryer if you're interested in Olights for police duty lights, and also make sure you check out, before you go plunking your hard-earned money down on this, our other videos on the channel about weapon lights from ASP, Surefire, police duty lights from ASP, Surefire, Streamlight, things like that, because I think you're going to find that there's other lights that could work better for your particular application if you're not looking for that turbo mode, for that enhanced high-end performance for this short period of time. Until next week, you guys be safe and take care of each other. Hey, thanks for watching Free Field Training on YouTube. And while you're here, why don't you check out some of these other goofy videos that I've made? Or you could subscribe, or maybe go over to Patreon and see how you get your name put on the videos like these fine folks over here. All the links are, of course, down in the description. We'll see you guys next time.